But we as a Muslim, as a mature people will know it. But this youngster sitting over here, when they see from their friends love of Jesus, right? Love of Jesus from their friends and the schools. And when they come over here, they always hear the fear of Jahannam. Jahannam, now, all this. If they hear more about the love of Allah, the last 2 sentences that he said before he asked anybody any question, they will feel more comfortable. He get the message, the child went, got rained, sick, and still mother comforted him. That's how the God does it. But so far, I'm 60-some years old. I always hear in my life from Pakistan and here, fear of Allah. If you don't do that, you're going to go to Jannah. You're going to go to this Surah, you're going to do this hot weather. Do this, do this.
It's a good point. I like the point you made, though. And there's an important distinction. There's two things. Most of the time, so the conversation was that we should speak more about the love of Allah, especially youth, not just say.
That's what I'm talking about. Yeah.
What's your name, brother? Rasul. Brother Rasul, he said something beautiful. He said that when we talk about fear, it's fear to displease them because of the love of them. Right? That was the point you're making. And there's an important distinction here. Fear and love are not opposites. And most of the times we treat them as opposites. The opposite of fear is hope. It's not love. Love is always, Imam Ibn al-Qayyim, he's one of the great scholars. He said that, maybe you've heard this before. He said the example of a believer is like a bird. He has 2 wings. One wing is the wing of fearing God. The other wing is the one of hoping in His mercy. If you cut either wing, the believer will be unbalanced and can't fly. But if you cut off the head of the bird, then he will die. And the head of the bird is love. Right? And Allah Azza wa Jalla, when He talks about fear, He usually uses the word fear. Right? But He usually uses the word khashya. Khashya is not fear. Khashya is fear out of awe. You know when we say something is awesome, right? That means you're amazed by it. You look at it, you reflect on it, and you say, Subhanallah. You say, wow, Subhanallah, right? This is khashya. So it's fearing Allah out of your awe of knowing Him. And that's why Allah says, إِنَّمَا يَخْشَى اللَّهَ مِنْ عِبَادِهِ الْعُلَمَاءِ. Indeed, those who have khashya of Allah are the scholars, are those that know Him very well. Because khashya is fear based on knowledge, it's fear based on awe, which is based on love. So love is at the head of all matters. I agree that the rhetoric should be more on loving Allah Azza wa Jalla. Right?
That was my point, that's it.
Yeah. The problem is, unfortunately, sometimes we can't put fear in context of what Brother Rasul said. And that becomes an issue, because we have to fear Allah Azza wa Jalla, and we should mention it. And as we mentioned, we should focus more on mercy, especially with those that are far away. But there is a place for fear, and we should mention it in context, as I mentioned. Good points. Any other thoughts before we continue? Excuse me. Okay, the next 2 verses. I won't spend a lot of time on these verses because they're very heavy in fiqh. They're very heavy in jurisprudence. I'm not very qualified to speak about it, but inshallah we'll listen to all. وَإِن طَائِفَتَانِ مِنَ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ اقْتَتَلُوا فَأَصْلِحُوا بَيْنَهُمَا فَإِن بَغَتْ إِحْدَاهُمَا عَلَى الْأُخْرَى فَقَاتِلُوا الَّتِي تَبْغِي حَتَّى تَفِيءَ إِلَى أَمْرِ اللَّهِ فَإِن فَاءَتْ فَأَصْلِحُوا بَيْنَهُمَا بِالْعَدْلِ وَأَقْسِطُوا إِنَّ اللَّهَ يُحِبُّ الْمُقْسِطِينَ إِنَّمَا الْمُؤْمِنُونَ إِخْوَةٌ فَأَصْلِحُوا بَيْنَ أَخَوَيْكُمْ وَاتَّقُوا اللَّهَ لَعَلَّكُمْ تُرْحَمُونَ. Allah Azza wa Jalla says, and if 2 parties amongst the believers fall into mutual fighting, make peace between them. Then if one of them transgresses against the other, fight the one who has transgressed until he returns to the command of Allah. Then, if he returns, make peace between them with justice and be fair, for Allah loves those who are fair and just. Indeed, the believers are brethren. Therefore, make reconciliation between them, and fear Allah, so that you may be shown mercy. Allah Azza wa Jalla talks about how to deal with 2 mentions at the beginning, the first resort is always to try to make peace between them, to try to fix issues. Our job as mediators is to try to reconcile between people. And Allah mentions this verse right after the concept of if someone comes to you with bad news, or if an evildoer comes to you and says something, right, then confirm it. It's as if Allah is saying, if you don't confirm it and you listen to all of this, you're going to have issues. Think about the Iraq war that we went and we fought, right? Our government decided to go and fight a war based on news, right? A wrong person who said that there's weapons of mass destruction, there's this fear that there's all this stuff, right? Of course, all of this is false. We listen to this, believers fighting each other in Iraq, consistently, you know? SubhanAllah. Usually this is the cause. Anyway, the first thing that we try to do when this happens is make peace between each other, you know? This talks about people fighting, right? But even with regards to your friends and your family, this is very relevant, right? Especially in issues of family, extended family. One, the aunt will tell her, her daughter, this person said such and such, okay? Do you know that they said this about you? I said, oh really, they said it about me? Yeah. This person goes to the family, this family fights with this family, You know the Arabs, they used to fight? The one person told another one, this is before the time of the Prophet. He said, they took your camel, they slaughtered your camels on your land, it wasn't on their land. He said, really? He said, yeah. 2 tribes fought for 40 years. This is called Bu'afos, and they wrote a lot of poetry. What's interesting, if a person wants to learn Tafsir, he needs to study the poetry that was done during this time, because it was the strongest of Arabic. The meaning, most of the poetry is, not all of it, but most of it is very, off. But the Arabic is very strong, because that's the Arabic of the Quran. But anyway, what does the Prophet ﷺ tell us to do in this case? He said we're allowed to lie in 3 situations. Excuse me. We're allowed to lie, who knows what 3 situations are? We're supposed to speak the truth all the time, except in 3 situations we have the permission not to. Right? The first one is a husband or a wife and their spouse, not for everything, but for issues that can bring love between them. So for example, a man goes home, his wife cooked for him, and she spent all day and she wants to make him a special treat that she's never made before, and she completely messes it up, right? And the husband comes and he says, this is horrible. He doesn't have to say that. He can say, SubhanAllah, this is excellent. He has the permission to lie, right? Similarly, a spouse can do that, our husband. As, for example, maybe a man usually doesn't dress up, right? And then this day he decided to dress up, but he messed up the colors really bad. He chose this, he chose that, he didn't like it at all. And his wife looks at him and says, you look really great, mashallah. So thank you so much for dressing up for me. Even though he really doesn't look great. It's permissible to lie in this situation. The second situation, look, to bring peace between them and love. The second situation is when 2 believers are in an argument. It's permissible for a person who's mediating. So say Muhammad and Ahmed, or Muhammad and Saleh, 2 names are different, are arguing. Me, Sami, I go to Muhammad and I say, SubhanAllah, Saleh was talking about you the other day, and he said, say I was with Saleh, so I was like, man, I hate Muhammad, I can't stand him, he's doing such and such. I go to Muhammad, right, and I say, Saleh was talking about you the other day, he said he was so sorry, he felt really bad. It's a complete lie. He didn't say any of that, right? But the Prophet ﷺ gave us permission to go and lie, to bring love between them. This person and the people, this happens a lot in families. Not only did they not lie, they made it worse than it actually is. They said this about you, they said that, and they didn't say any of that. Maybe they said one of those things. And this is what causes problems, subhanAllah. As a mediator, we're supposed to try to cause peace between them. This is the spirit of the message of Islam, right? If they're fighting, bring peace. Not all the time does that work. Allah says wa'in. Wa'in means it rarely happens, but sometimes it happens. So if one is absolutely, unequivocally wrong, then you can take sides with that party until the wrong one returns to Allah. Look at what's happening in the Middle East, especially in Libya, right? Where it's absolutely clear-cut. Where this man, Muhammad Gaddafi, is hiring mercenaries to kill left and right, undiscriminately, right? As the surrounding nations, if they want to mediate, their goal is to bring peace. But when it reaches this level, they should fight with the oppressed party until the other one returns to Allah. This is what Allah says, right? Especially when it's undiscriminate and it's unequivocally clear. Some situations maybe it's not clear. This one's absolutely clear. There's no question again, right? Until they return to Allah. If they do return to Allah, then bring peace between them with justice. Inna Allah yuhibbul muqsitin. Don't take sides. This is very important. Human being is inclined to take sides with people that are similar to him. But as Muslims, we're not allowed to do this. Allah Azza wa Jalla says, يَا أَيُّهَا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا كُونُوا قَوَّامِينَ لِلَّهِ شُهَدَاءَ بِالْقِسْطِ وَلَوْ عَلَى أَنفُسِكُمْ أَوْ الْوَالِدَيْنِ وَالْأَقْرَبِينَ. O you who believe, stand upright for God, be witnesses for justice, even if it is against your own souls, or your parents, or your relatives, those that you're most inclined to side with. You need to put that aside. In issues of marriages, this happens all the time, right? There will be a couple, they're having a problem, they try to go to the family to mediate, and the father of the girl, the father of the boy, gives them advice that's biased, it's unjust, and it goes against the rulings of Allah and His Messenger. Because of his favor of son. This is called hamiyat al-jahiliyyah. This is pre-Islamic ignorance. This is not from Islam. We need to be just even if it is against our own souls. At work, a lot of us maybe work for IT companies where we log our hours on the computer. If you work 6 hours, you have to put, I worked 6 hours. I don't care if you have a lot of downtime. This is being just with yourself. And this is what Allah and His Messenger order us to do. We can't zigzag. This is not allowed in Islam. It really isn't. Then Allah Azza wa Jalla says, emphasizing the importance of the believers, indeed, the believers are ikhwa, our brethren. The word ikhwa is only used for blood brothers. Right? That's why Allah says ikhwa to Yusuf, the brothers of Yusuf in the story of Yusuf. And the word ikhwan is used for brothers that are not, don't have a relationship with blood, like brothers in faith. Allah is emphasizing how close the believers are in their relationship, closer than blood brothers. إِنَّمَا الْمُؤْمِنُونَ إِخْوَةٌ. Indeed, the believers are closer than blood brothers. And so bring peace between your brothers and have taqwa of Allah, so that you may attain His mercy. The mercy of Allah comes when there's peace and reconciliation between the groups of believers. Any questions on these verses? Of course, there's a lot of aspects on this. If there's a physical fight, right? How do you take sides? How do you not? I'm not qualified to speak about those aspects, so don't ask about that.
It seems so amazing that verse, considering all of this unity that we have in the Islamic world today. I mean, it's almost like it has been completely overlooked.
The point, the comment that Brother Sami made is that considering all of this unity we have today, it seems that this point is overlooked. And it's very true. Not only is it overlooked, a lot of the people that are causing this unity have memorized these verses, and they know them. But remember we said when we approached the Quran, you put all your conceptions behind you? We failed at that point from the very beginning. Because we can choose to interpret these verses in any way we wish.